let's jump right into it, Adam. What's been going on? What's been happening?
Well, what's been happening is that person died due to police brutality, which is pretty much the accepted lingo of it. It's obvious that the man wasn't of any threat, and the policeman was
and I spent some time trying to watch as many videos as I could of the raw footage, unedited footage. And it is so hard to find the unedited footage of that. There's some security cam footage you can watch, and then from the bystanders let me see if I can get my notes out here of George Floyd. The incident, it started out, he went in to buy a pack of cigarettes and left, and then later a shop owner came out of the store to where he was parked and said, hey, you gave me a counterfeit 20, give that back. He didn't give back the cigarettes, which, like, as a store owner, you can't, once the person's out the door, you can't expect anything to happen. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't know. It sucks. It sucks. Because as a store owner, you don't want to get, and that's a little store. It's, what was it called? Cup Foods, something like that. Anyways, then the police were called to investigate this counterfeit $20 bill. They got to George Floyd in his car, parked nearby, and there were some other people in the SUV. He wasn't driving. The officer drew his gun and asked him to get out of the car, and then he holstered the gun and got George Floyd in handcuffs. George Floyd was very compliant in the videos. You could tell he was shaken up. He was, like, really nervous. And autopsy reports show that he had methamphetamine and fentanyl in his system.
Oh, damn.
Which, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All things considered, he was doing fine. There are some reports that... So then he's taken across the street. He's taken, like, down the sidewalk, across the street to another police car. I don't know why. If you got a perp in handcuffs, why you had to move them so much? There was a police car right there. He's tried to put in the back of the car. We don't really have any good footage of that because it blocks the security cam footage. And the footage that is released by the police department right now of the body cam footage is all edited and censored. So you can't really tell what's going on. It's garbage. I don't know. Why? Well, because there's an investigation going on and whatever. Whatever. The main thing is that for some reason he was taken out of the car and he was thrown to the ground. And then an officer, by this time there are 4 officers on the scene.
Okay.
One of the officers is pinning him down with his knee on his neck. And the other 3 officers... No, there are 2 other officers on his body, and then 1 officer doing crowd control.
Yeah.
Bystanders watching, and at a certain point you see the bystanders being like, hey, you, one of them talks to George and is like, hey, you gotta get up, man. You gotta get in the police car. Get up. And George says, I can't. And no shit, he can't because there's a policeman with his knee on his neck and won't let him get up. He's like, I can't breathe. I need some water. I can't breathe. And at a certain point, he becomes unresponsive. And the bystanders who are filming repeatedly say, hey, you need to get off of him. You need to check his pulse. And they don't do anything. The police don't respond. The only words you hear from the policeman is the one doing crowd control says, don't do drugs, kids. Oof. And he just repeats that. He's like, no, don't do. He's just like, don't do drugs. And condescending, like, this is what happens. The policeman with his knee on George's neck doesn't respond at all. When people realize that this guy's unresponsive and that, like, he might be dead, they try to go in to help him, and he pulls out his mace. and threatens the bystanders.
Yeesh.
So there's no recourse for these people to go and help this guy who's clearly dying. It's fucked up, man. So, and the policeman just stays there, does not move his position with his knee on his neck, past when he's unresponsive. He's bleeding from his nose, George Floyd, and eventually EMS shows up. And even when EMS shows up, he still has his knee on his neck. And then they kind of manhandle him and drag him across the ground onto a sheet to put him on a gurney. They take him to an undisclosed location, the EMS workers, and they need fire department backup. Fire department show up at the crime scene, and the police don't tell the fire department where George Floyd has been taken by the EMS. And so it takes them a few minutes to get to George Floyd, and ultimately he died. Because of the autopsies show, because of the asphyxiation, and he went into cardiac arrest because of the blood, not enough blood getting to his brain. Whoa, it's heavy stuff if you watch those videos. The Times puts together these videos for you and walks you through it. I don't really like those walkthroughs. That's just my thing. I want to see the raw footage. And that's the thing, is that none of these news agencies cite their actually put out the raw footage for you to do it for yourself. They kind of spoon feed it to you, and I don't like that. That's garbage.